Hello friends. So now we will do the essentials of current electricity. To understand the fundamentals and principles of current electricity, it is essential for us to understand first the nature and properties of fundamental charges, that is electron and proton. Practically for our current electricity, under all situations we will be handling the electron and its properties. Friends, until early 1800, it was all going according to the Dalton theory, and historically also it was believed that atom is indivisible. In fact, the word atom itself means indivisible. However, down the line, somewhere around 1830, it was discovered by Michael Faraday that electricity, which was known during those days flow of energy only, he showed in his electrolytic conduction experiment that the electricity has particulate nature. Following this discovery, lot of extensive experimentations were done. Mainly they were done by Michael Faraday and some other scientists of those times, and experiments were done on the cathode ray discharge tubes. They studied various phenomena, and finally they had certain observations. Based upon those observations, they concluded that there is a particle that is subatomic, and they coined this particle as electron. Then there were some more experimentations done, one famous being done by Sir J.J. Thomson in 1897, and by this experiment he determined the charge to mass ratio of electron. Later, after around 15 years, R.A. Millikan did his famous oil drop experiment, and he determined the value of electric charge for one electron. Now, because E by M was already known, and now the E is also known, so the separate values of E and M were calculated easily. Idea is to understand that the subatomic particles were discovered later, but the electrical phenomena, especially the frictional electricity, was known before the existence and discovery of this fact that atom is divisible and we have subatomic particles. Now when an atom as a whole is positive, and after all these experiments it was found that the negatively charged particles, electrons, are available in the atom. So there was a hunt to understand how is it neutral, and there were some experiments done on the modified cathode ray discharge tubes, and finally canal rays were discovered, which eventually discovered the protons. So this is how we got to know our two fundamental electrical charges, the electron and proton. In context of electricity, the fundamental properties of electrons and protons are that electron is negatively charged and proton is positively charged. They have a equal charge but of opposite type. One is assigned the minus sign, the other is signed the positive sign. Here I want to emphasize that as such there is no zero charge, and there is nothing less in this electron and there is nothing more in this proton by which we say that this is positive and this is negative. It is just by convention. It could have been the other way also, but as per convention the electron is assigned the negative value and the charge on the proton is assigned positive value, and they are opposite in nature. However, there is no mathematical relation between the positivity and negativity. Then the fundamental property of these charges are that the opposite charges attract and similar charges repel, which means if we have two negative positive charges, they will have a force of repulsion. If we have two charges like this, one is negative, one is positive, they will attract each other. Similarly, if we have two negative charges, they will also repel each other, and if we have the other way, they will attract. So this is the fundamental property of charges, that the similar charges will repel each other and the opposite charges will attract each other. The whole of the electrostatics and current electricity is based on this fundamental property of electric charges, that is the force of attraction and force of repulsion between them, depending upon the nature of the charges interacting or the nature of the charges that are available in the system. While the nature of the forces between two charges was a fundamental property, and that decides whether the two charges are going to repel each other or they are going to attract each other, the quantitative value of this force that exists between these two charges was given by the Coulomb's law, which simply states if we have a system of charges Q1 and Q2 and they are separated by a distance r, the force exerted by them on each other is given by a constant k multiplied by Q1 Q2 upon r square, that is the distance between the two charges. Now this gives the quantity of force, and the nature of the force is given by whether these two charges are positive or these two charges are negative, or one is positive and the other is negative. That means this force of this quantity can be a repulsive force or it can be a attractive force depending upon the nature of the charges. Now having understood this, now we know that for each charge we are going to have an electrostatic force that it will exert on an other charge if it comes into its region or if it comes at some distance from the charge. So having calculated the electrostatic forces between two charges, if we expand it further, and now if we have a system of charge, let's say we have Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4. So now this is a system of charge and we have their coordinates well defined in the space. So this is distance R3, 2, that is distance from 3 to 2. This is distance R2, 4. This is from 2 to 4. This is R4, 1, that is 4 to 1. And now this is R1, 3. So now we have a system of charges that are placed at 4 points with 4 different values of Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4. So since force is a vector quantity, if we have a system of charges, we will calculate the forces individually exerted by each charge on the other charges, and the vector addition of all these forces will give the resultant force on any charge. Let's say this is a charge for which we want to calculate the resultant force. So we'll calculate force due to this, force due to this and force due to this, and then we'll have the vector addition of all the three forces, which will give us a resultant force on Q2. So now we can define the electric field at point P due to charge Q. It simply says electric field at point P due to charge Q is the force which a unit positive charge would experience at point P under influence of this charge Q. So here 3 things remain very fundamental in the definition of electric charge. That is designated by capital E, and since it is a vector quantity, so we always put a vector sign because it is a force only. So here the number one thing is the force that it exerts on a unit positive charge. So the test charge is a unit positive charge. Second thing is it is always specific to a specific source charge. So if we describe that this is the E and this is the E for this Q only. If this Q changes, this E will also change, because as per the Coulomb's law, the two charges, multiplication of two charges will give the quantum or the quantity of the force. So that source charge needs to be specified. And as you know that if the distance from this point to this point changes, if this is R, if this is R1, so if the distance from the test charge to the source charge changes, the value of the E is going to change. So the electric field is specific for three things: that it should be a unit positive charge which experiences the force, then there should be a source charge which should be known in its type, that means positive or negative, and its value of charge, and third is it is always specific for a specific point. Here one more thing we need to understand: though the electric field is experienced by its effect, that is the force, but electric field is a physical entity and it is just not a mathematical
This
constant.
concept
of electric field was introduced by Michael Faraday, and now this is one of the most basic phenomena or concept of electrostatics, and it is more evident when these charges are accelerating, because then we realize that we need to have something which is more fundamental than electric force or electrostatic force. Here in this picture, when we have electrostatics, when these two charges or more than 2-3 charges, that is the system of charge, is described, we describe the electric field in terms of the electric force that is experienced by a test charge. But actually, even if there is no test charge, we will have an electric field around the charge. So now when we know that we have electric field around a particular charge or for a system of charges, so when we pictorially map the electric field around a charge, we call them electric field lines. We may have different configurations depending upon the charges. If it is a negative charge, we will have field lines going into the charge. If we have a positive charge, electric field lines will diverge outward from the charge. The reason being, in the definition itself, we know that electric field is the force which would be experienced by a unit positive charge due to these source charges. So now if we take case 1, if we have a unit positive charge here, we know that this charge is going to get repelled, so that goes with these outward lines, which means anywhere if we put this unit positive charge, it is going to take this path outward from, that means repulsion from this source charge. Same way, if we take a unit positive charge here, or if we take a unit positive charge here, we know that being negative source charge, this charge is going to pull or attract this test charge towards itself. So the force will be towards the charge, that means inward, and these are the electric lines of forces for single charges. Then for the system of charges, we may have complex field lines, but the basic principle remains same, that is the force that will be experienced by any unit positive charge at a particular point. I repeat, 3 things remain conditional when we describe or determine electric field. One is we need to describe it with respect to a particular source charge, that is Q. Second is we need to specify it for a particular point, that is point P. And third is, this is the force which is experienced by a unit positive charge. So these 3 things remain fundamental in the definition of the electric field. Now there are some more characteristics that are associated with electric field lines. One is, for a positive charge they diverge outwardly, and for a negative charge they converge inwardly. Electric field lines is never cross, because if we have 2 lines crossing like this, we will have 2 positions of the force at a particular point, which is not possible. So the field lines never cross. So having done the basics of electric field, electrostatic force and electric field lines, now we can understand the concept of electric potential. The concept of electric potential is very central to current electricity. Let us again assume we have a source charge Q. Now we know that with respect to this source charge Q, at any particular point we are going to have a force which is for a unit positive charge defined as E. That is the electric field at this point P due to this source charge Q. So the electric potential is defined as the work done in bringing a unit positive charge from infinity to this point. The work done in bringing a unit positive charge from infinity to this point is referred to as electric potential in electrostatics. Friends, if we have a charge Q and let's say at infinity we have a charge if it is at infinity, we assume that this charge is not affected by this charge. There is no effect of this source charge on this charge. So at infinity, in such a situation, the potential energy of this charge is taken to be 0. So by convention also, potential energy at the infinity is taken as 0. Now, what does the definition say? The definition says the work done in bringing a unit positive charge from this place to a particular point P. Now we take two cases. First case is this is a positive charge and this is also a positive charge. So now if these two charges are positive, we know that the natural tendency of this charge will be to repel this charge. So we need to do some external work to bring this charge from infinity to this point. Now when we do external work and that external work is not manifested in any other energy loss, that external work is stored as potential energy in the charge or the object on which the work is done. So if the charge is brought from here to here, this will acquire some energy. Now here the energy was 0 and some work done is done and that is stored in the form of energy. So here we say that the potential energy will be positive because from 0 it is increasing. Here it was 0. When we bring it from here to here, we were doing some external work on it against this electrostatic repulsive force that was trying to push it back. We brought it from here to here. So we have done some work and due to that work done, this has gained a potential or potential energy that is positive. So for a repulsive system of charges, the charge is brought from infinity to this point or nearer to this source charge. The nearer the point, the more will be the potential energy acquired by the charge. If here it is P1, here it is P2, here it is P3, so P3 potential energy as point 3t, P3 will be higher than potential energy at point P2 and then potential energy at point P1. So for a system of charges where the force is repulsive. Now we take another example. Now assume that this charge is a negative charge. And this negative charge is brought from this place to this point P again. We know that now in this case, because this charge is positive, this is spontaneously attracted towards this source charge and no external work will be required. No external work will be required to be done on this charge to bring it from infinity to this point P. So from where does this, because find it at this charge has changed its coordinates, so the energy should come from somewhere. The energy comes from the system itself. There is no external work required because the force itself is attractive. So if we again assume that at infinity the potential energy was 0, and from infinity this charge has traversed some path and it has come closer to this positive source charge, this work done is drawn from the energy of this charge, and here the potential energy will become negative because from 0 the energy is drawn, so it will be negative. Now if we make it further here, so the more energy is drawn because the more distance is traversed by the electron, and the energy has to come from the system because externally there is no energy given because that was not required because the force is attractive. So here also the energy will be negative, but here it will be more negative, and here again it will be more negative. So again if we see, this is point 3, this is point 2, and this is point 1, we can say, and this is infinity, so you can say that in negative, when something increases, its value decreases. So we say that the potential energy is maximum at infinity and the maximum value is 0, and then as this charge is brought towards the attractive force, the energy of this charge, the potential of this charge, the potential energy of this charge will increase in its negative value. That means the potential energy will decrease. Otherwise also, to memorize, we can always do it like that. If spontaneously something is moving, there is no external work done. If spontaneously something is moving, it will lose its potential energy. So if it is at 0, it will go in negative. If it has some value, it will go lesser than that. And if some work is done to move some object, the potential energy will increase. We take an example of gravitational potential energy, which is analogous to electrostatic potential energy in the concept. Suppose we have a mass here. Now on its own it cannot go against the force of gravitation, that is towards downside. So we'll have to do work to put it from here to here. Now when I say that external energy or external work is to be done to change the position of a particular mass, the potential energy increases. Now from here again, if we want to put it to some height h2, we know that again we have to do some work, and in lieu of that work, this mass has not done any other manifestation of energy. It has not released that energy. So if that work is done and no other form of energy is released, it simply implies that it has again increased the potential energy, and this value is going to be higher than this value. And now if we put it again from here to here, we'll have again potential energy increased, and this value is going to be higher than this value also and this value also. Now if I remove this, if I remove these stops, if I remove these stops which were holding these masses, we know that spontaneously this will come back to this. Spontaneously this mass will come back to the ground, and spontaneously this will come back to the ground. And as stated previously, if spontaneously the mass moves towards the ground, its potential energy will decrease. So now P will be here lesser than here, and here even lesser than here, and here it will be the least. So if I draw the P is increasing in this direction. So the takeaway message is, if in a situation you find that the charge itself is moving towards the source charge, no external work is to be done, and that is only possible when we have the attractive force. Obviously, because of attractive force only, this charge will move from this place to some point. So the more the distance is traveled, more potential energy it will lose, and more negative it will become in the potential energy. And if we find that the charge is moved by some external agency, that automatically means that the force in the movement was repulsive due to this charge, and to overcome that force we have to do some external work. So some external work is done, so the value will be positive, and the more the work will be done, the more the distance will be traveled, the more will be the potential. So now to summarize the concept of electrical potential, I have drawn the two cases with sub cases. Let us look to this picture. This is case 1. We have a source charge, and that is a positive large Q. Now if we have a negative charge, we know that it is spontaneously pulled by this source charge, so there is no external work which will be required. But if it moves from here to P1, it will lose some energy. This is infinity, and the PE is 0, or electrical potential is 0. So at P1 it will become some negative value. At P2, because it has traveled larger distance, greater distance, it will lose more energy, and this will be again a negative value of electric potential, but this time it is going to be more negative than P1. And at P3 it will be the highest negative value in these three cases. Now if we see this side, the second case where the force is repulsive, here it is attractive. So in case of attractive force, we have seen that at infinity it is 0, and closer to the source it becomes more and more and more negative. Now come to this side. This is again at infinity it is 0. When you bring it from infinity to point R1, now you know that it is not going to happen spontaneously, because there is a force of repulsion, so we have to do some external work. Now when we are doing external work, we are increasing the energy of the system, and that will make the potential energy of this charge positive. We make it more closer, we will have to spend more energy to do it, we have to do some harder work, and it will become more negative. And if we put it even closer, we are going to have the highest of the positive value of the electric potential. So this is the concept of electric potential. It simply says that a work is required to be done. Either it will be done by the system, that means the potential energy will be lost, or it will be done by the external source, that means the potential energy of the charge will increase. But in any case, at any specific point, a work is required to be done, and that work done is electric potential. If it is quantified and definition, we say that it is a work done to bring a unit positive charge from infinity to a particular point around a source charge. And if you have a charge which is not unit positive charge, then you multiply it by the value of the charge. So if V is the potential and now Q is the charge, so we say total will be QV.